All right, I'm trying. Hello. So today is 28th of November 2023, 5:04 a.m. Got a bit late today, mostly because I'm trying to do a new setup. So like when I'm speaking, I feel it would help me do some deep thinking as well if I have a pen and a notebook in front of me to just scribble stuff. So I want to play around with this setup. The best would be, I guess, to have a camera on the page from this side and then have another camera on my face as well. So at least that's what I would prefer if I see someone doing this same thing. Like I want to know how their thoughts are being processed, like follow some of their thoughts through the writing stuff, but also I want to see what they are expressing to their face. So this is it. Actually I was actually inspired by last night I was watching a podcast of what was his name again? Ryan Ronalds, I believe that was his name. So he's an author, a very famous author. So Ryan Ronalds on Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett. So, and they were talking a lot about, so he has written a lot on Stoicism and the Daily Stoic. I believe that's what he's known for. So that made me think. That made me think about life. That made me think about stuff. So today's topic, which was like kind of inspired, like when I was listening to him in the back of my mind, I was just thinking to myself, what is the best question to ask yourself to live better every day? So they spoke about life and death and how just knowing that it is inevitable, living and death especially is inevitable. That got me thinking. I was thinking the same thing, and a while back I have seen Jocko's podcast, I believe on Chris Williamson. So that podcast, he spoke about how he, unfortunately I guess, had to say goodbye to a lot of his friends, to his comrades, and that basically engraved it in his memory or in his thought process that this could just be your last day, that life isn't limitless, that we have, what time we have is limited. So when he wakes up every day, he reminds himself of that, or at least he's reminder of that, because he's experienced so much farewells. And I had this thought since then. So, and yesterday when he was Ryan Reynolds, he and Steven were discussing about how like we often forget that we are all terminally ill. Technically we are terminally ill, as in the moment we were born, we were all destined to die. I remember, I recall the funny, I believe it was of David Goggins sending a message to Joe Rogan on his podcast about how, I believe it was a birthday wish by David Goggins to Joe Rogan. So it was, he said something like that the moment you were born was the moment you were destined to die, or something like that. And I believe most people realize, not most people, probably everyone knows that, but it's just, it goes to our back of my mind. We take things for granted. And I realize in my own life as well, when I think about how life and death, you know, maybe I should just write here. So how life and death, how when we have it in our mind that we will die someday, you know, when we have it in our mind, we often are more engaged with life. At least you won't be going around in a robot mode, just going through the motions. You tend to at least try to be more indulged and engaged in whatever is going around you. So in my case, I have experienced that as well. You know, after watching a nice movie, after watching, not nice, it was nice, but it was sad, you know, something like that, nice anime, a nice book, or something, a very emotional video, and videos like this, the ones I watched on those podcasts, you know, people talking about that. And I tried doing that, you know, about putting posters about, you know, you will die, right? So you will die. Not that blunt, but every day we live, we are a step closer to death and stuff. I actually have, like, as you might have already seen, there are posters behind me all around my room, in my door, in my main doorway as well, outside the door. So I have these posters, reminders, telling me that today could be my last day. It just might be. I just might not be able to see the sunset today. So despite all that, even with that in my face, right in my face, put it on the front of my door and stuff, the human mind is so good at adapting that even with that on my face, I still, after a while, I still take it for granted, even that fact staring me at my face. And it's hard to, actually, maybe it's a survival mechanism, maybe there's something to it that prevents us from like telling ourselves every day, you know, every moment, that we're gonna die, right? So maybe there's a human side to it, and that prevents us from dwelling on the thought too much. Maybe for some people, I heard for some people, they dwell on the thought and it haunts them. Jordan Peterson spoke about how when he was still very young, like 20 years, somewhere in his 20s and stuff, he started to have the thought of, you know, life is short, go get it, life is short, you know, death could come anytime and stuff like that. So for some people, it's probably possible, and it's probably not a good thing when it's possible, because it drives you nuts, and you are, you know, you go through life bit too frantically, bit too crazy. You have a crazy thoughts going in your head. So it's probably not a healthy one. And for the average person, for at least in my experience, I I found it hard to even have that thought on a daily basis, which I feel would be a good thing if I am way more in tune with the thought. So like every time I speak to someone, every time I get pissed off, I won't just get pissed off at them, and at that very moment I'll be thinking to myself, you know what, I might not see sunset today, so why is this the last interaction? Is this how I want to end my last interaction? You know, have my last interaction with them this way. And that could probably make me a lot kinder, make me a lot more generous, make me a lot more disciplined and hardworking as well, because I would, every time I get lazy, every time I have a useless thought, I would think to myself, you know what, would I want to die with the last actions I do this, like lazing around, doing nothing, scrolling through Facebook, you know? That's probably not the last activities I would, that's not probably how I would spend the last moments of my life. So I tried, it doesn't work, but what worked for me was asking myself, like, what is my priority? Like, what is my priority? This works for me. This definitely works for me. So I don't know where I got it from, but every time I'm going through something, or I'm just, you know, living my life, going through my everyday stuff, I have this, when I have this thought, it redirects my focus. Rather than asking myself why I'm doing this, which is also another tip many speakers advise about, suggest, like, you know, ask yourself why you're doing that. Like when you're running, ask yourself why you're doing that, and which is helpful sometimes. But what I realized with why is it, when I ask myself why, the weak side of me, the lazy side, procrastinating side of me often finds that opportunity to pop up. It's like, you know what, you don't need to do this. Like, why are you doing this? You know, even if I have a very good reason, like, you know, all right, this is the reason I exist, or something like that. At least that's how I defined my the fact that everything I'm doing now about discipline in running, discipline in, like, you know, all the skills I'm practicing and stuff, I've rooted them all to, like, this is my legacy, this is what I'll be remembered by. And like in my deathbed, would I want to be remembered as someone, you know, would I want to be remembered as some, you know, average dude who lived through life normally, just, you know, mediocre. He just lived a mediocre life and a mediocre death, that's it. Or would I want to be remembered as, you know what, he lived a mediocre life, he was miserable, but he stuck to a thing and kept doing it for 30-40 years and became amazing at it. And though that act of just being good at something, or just a discipline he had in his life, defined his life, right? So that's, I don't know about others, but for me that is so cool, like to be able to have that in my last moment, in my last thoughts. Maybe it wouldn't be my last thought, maybe my last thought would be about my family and stuff, but like, I want to have the thought in the last day of my life that, you know what, when I'm ready to face my death, I guess, I want to have that thought that despite my misery, despite, you know, all the things I failed at, I ran for 30 years, you know. I did push-ups for 30 years. I did pull-ups for 30 years and I got good at it. I started at 0 pull-ups and now I'm doing 50 pull-ups. Things like that. So hopefully I can do more than 50 at my deathbed or, you know, my peak. But, you know, It's that would be amazing. Like I want to have that. I've seen people, and the people I am most envious of when they speak about their achievements and stuff is often not the huge thing, like they won millions, they became a millionaire, they became a billionaire, they sold millions of books and stuff. That's usually not what I'm envious about. What I'm envious about is often the lines where they say, I've been writing for 10 years. Like I've been at this field for 30 years. There's something very cool about that to me. Like, and that, all right, I went on a complete tangent. Did I? So we were talking about life and death. We were talking about the best thought to have, to live every day better, and then, oh yeah, so like, yeah, so I'm envious of that, and that's something I want to have. And so this, what is my priority? This question, it works better for me. Like even with those kind of strong emotions I have, at least I've attached my legacy to it, the meaning of my life to it, the reason for my existence to those thoughts. Even with that strong of an emotion, every time I ask myself, why am I doing this? Often, like 40 or 30% of the time, thoughts creep into my mind, like, you know what, you're gonna do this for life anyway, so why do it just today? Like, why not just rest for today, do it tomorrow, it's fine, you're doing it for life anyways, so that thought definitely pops in. And why am I doing this doesn't always apply to all situations. Like suppose you are having a discussion with someone and for whatever reason you get pissed off or you get annoyed, and then why am I being annoyed, why am I pissed? It's because his fault, right? It's because she's, so that question makes you, at least it makes me want to blame others and stuff. And yeah, in certain situations it doesn't work very well. But what worked for me, what I think I stumbled into it like by chance. And what is my priority? This question really gets to the meat of things for me. Like every time, and it's not dependent on the circumstances. In every circumstances, when I ask this question, it usually gets me to make better decisions. Like in pretty much every situation. So when I'm running, it's like, what is my priority? It not only reinforces whatever I'm doing and encourages me to keep doing it, but it also helps me refocus on exactly why I started that thing and how, like, what I should correct at present. Say suppose I'm just running for the sake of running that day because I was bored, but when I ask this question, what is my priority, it's like, okay, right now I need to run, I need to get better at it. And why am I getting better? It's because I have a legacy attached to it, I have my life goals attached to it. And what's the best way to do it? Should I turn off my music now and focus on my steps rather than wasting my time listening to the same playlist I've been listening to for years and stuff like that. So it gets me like prioritized, focused well. It basically, it's like that calibration of the compass on these GPS maps, and I believe on a real compass as well. I have no idea, but at least on the GPS maps, it's like that calibration, what you do with your phone and stuff. So I feel this question, what is my priority? It's an amazing question. What is my priority right now? And even when I'm pissed off at someone during an argument, during a discussion, what is my priority right now? Okay, my priority is to have a good time with my friend here. And that immediately helps me make better decisions. Okay, you know what? It's not important that I'm right. It's more important that we get along. And those kind of compromises, which are hard to make normally when you're irritated, and when I'm, like most people, I believe it's very hard to do that, compromise. But when I ask, once this question is asked, what is my priority? It immediately laser focuses me for some reason it just resets. Like Joko speaks about his ability to just stand back, to get back, and then look at things from like almost like an outsider's perspective, like while cutting himself off, like disassociating himself with the current urgent whatever tense situation is going on, and then look at it from a calmer outsider perspective. And that helps, he speaks about how that helps him make better decisions and stuff, and makes him think with a calmer mind as well. And in my case, this does it for me. Like, what is my priority now? That does the same thing for me. Whenever, like, I haven't been successful in asking this question every time, but every time I did manage to get this thought in my head, when my emotions are running out of control and stuff, it always gets me in check immediately. Because once I ask what is my priority right now, like it takes me out of the current circumstances in a weird way. Like because what is my priority right now for me, what it speaks to me on a depth is basically like what's the like core reason you're doing this. So when this core reasoning comes up, it immediately gets me out of the current whatever mess, whatever floaty thing I'm doing, and then gets to the bottom. So like to get to the bottom, I can't really be doing floaty and trying to get to the bottom, but usually what happens is I take a step back and go with. So for me, this question gets it right. So yeah, that was basically the whole video, but I crossed my time limit again, but this one was an important one for me. So for anyone out there who has issues with the same thought and who had the same thought of what's the kind of self-talk and thought I should do to keep myself in check, to get myself in check on a daily basis or in tense situation, and maybe what is my priority? This thought is probably something, you know, you should try. All right. See ya.